This is a 2024 Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport SEL Premium R-Line, a freshly updated two-row SUV that first arrived in the 2020 model year based on the longer three-row SUV, the Atlas. If you're curious, by the way, I did actually write about the Atlas Cross Sport when it first arrived in 2020, and I'll have a link to that article in the description. Among other things, the update simplified the available engines down to one, a turbocharged 2-liter. But you can still choose between front or all-wheel drive, which Volkswagen calls 4Motion. The 2024 update also brought a very well-equipped interior and an impressive level of standard features. This particular SEL Premium R-Line is the top of 5 trims offered above the SE, SE with Tech Package, SEL, and SEL R-Line. So yeah, we have all the bells and whistles. Briefly, SEL and higher trims come standard with the 4Motion all-wheel drive. But I gotta tell you, Volkswagen also has me conflicted because this is the brand that builds the GTI, one of the most fun to drive cars out there today. And more generally, at least historically, Volkswagen always punched above their weight in the fun to drive department, even when you got to the larger stuff. And I'm not sure this Atlas Cross Sport follows suit. Let's talk about it. I review all kinds of cars, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a 2024 Atlas Cross Sport SE with front-wheel drive is $38,410. Jumping into this top-of-the-line SEL Premium R-Line raises that price to $53,305. Don't forget that does include the standard all-wheel drive. And my test car cost exactly that, $53,305, because there aren't any options for the car at that price, just dealer accessories that you can include for your Atlas Cross Sport. All right, with that, now is a good time for me to pull over and show you around and inside the Atlas Cross Sport in a bit more detail, show you some of those cool standard features on this car. Looking at the front of the car, you can tell right away it's been updated. First, you have this larger, more pronounced grille right here. It's a slightly different shape as well. And you have this light beam that runs from the headlights straight across all the way to the other side. That illuminates the entire way, and so does the Volkswagen logo right here. Looks pretty cool at night. Also, the hood itself has a bulge at the end and then a couple more on either side with this like scalloped out part here in the center. So it looks pretty interesting and pretty cool. But maybe you're like me and more curious to see what's underneath it. And there it is, your turbocharged 2-liter inline-4 engine, transversely mounted or side to side like that. The axle center line is right around here, so kind of the back of the engine shroud right there. So much of the engine is in front of the front axle center line, which isn't great for chassis balance, but again, we're talking about a big SUV here, so it's not the worst crime in the world either, is it? And finally, windshield washer fluid is the probably easiest thing to get to right up front right here. Easy. Looking at the Atlas Cross Sport in profile, this gives you a good chance to check out this Kingfisher blue metallic paint. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen for you to check out and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. Standard wheel size for the Atlas Cross Sport is an 18-inch aluminum wheel, but you can also get 20s, or if you go with this top trim, 21-inch wheels. And yes, this is a square setup. The wheel in back is the same size as the wheel in front. Looking at the car from the back, this is maybe just a little too much for me. There is a lot going on here. It is quite interesting that the taillights do effectively run the entire width of the vehicle, and it's not a beam. This is a massive, bulky hunk of stuff right here, and I think that's interesting. Also, there's this subtle curve, so it actually extends out. It's its longest right at the center. But then you come off to the side here, and you have these quad exhaust tips, dual tips on either side, except you don't, not at all. These are totally fake. The ends of it end right there. It is dual exhaust tips on either side, and they are underneath down here. That's not my favorite. Anyway, let's see how much space we have inside. That's right. The Atlas Cross Sport can be had with the kick of the foot release for the tailgate, and you do then get 40 cubic feet of storage behind the second row. Pull a lever at the base of the back row, and both the bottom and seat back move to give you a real nice flat loading floor, a real nice wide space to use, and 78 cubic feet of storage. And I'm convinced ample room for my bike, but let's find out just in case. Since I've started doing this Will My Bike Fit test, this is the easiest it's ever been. Wow. I am 5 feet 11 inches or 181 centimeters tall, and as you can see, I have plenty of knee room. I also have a nice high seat bottom, so I have really good thigh support and much less than a 90-degree bend in my knees. I also have heated rear seats. So SEL and higher trims get these heated rear seats for the two outer seats. I also have 2 USB Type-C ports and AC power as well. We get sunshades. We get an armrest with cup holders because, man, come on, it's luxury back here. This is titanium black, according to Volkswagen, and because this is an SEL premium trim, this is quilted leather seats. You also have plenty of controls right here, including lumbar support and 3-position seat memory right here on the seat. You're looking at a 10.3-inch fully digital instrument cluster, which Volkswagen calls Digital Cockpit Pro. And because this is an SEL premium, SEL and higher trims get it, we also get a head-up display. Next to that, a widescreen 12-inch center console touchscreen. The home screen looks like this, and it's really easy to slide things around and move it around. And as you can see, we do have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Built into the screen is also a dual zone climate control system. Also, you can see that we have heated and ventilated seats for both the front driver and passenger, and that's standard equipment for the Atlas Cross Sport for 2024. That's one of the new features. Also standard for 2024 is a heated steering wheel. Nice. We have a few buttons right here, including your drive mode controls right here, and you can turn on a climate control screen just like this and get a better sense of what the dual zone climate control is offering you. Beneath all that, there is your standard equipment wireless smartphone charger and 2 more USB Type-C ports right there. You push to put the car in park, but otherwise you have this little dial for drive and reverse, and neutral is a softer touch, and an electric park brake right there. Looking up, you have the usual equipment plus controls for your panoramic moonroof, and the panoramic moonroof is on SEL and higher trims, and it includes the electric privacy panel, which is lovely. I do want to show you the drive modes because there's lots of those as well. Again, the mode button's right here. Click it and you can see that we have Eco, Comfort, Sport, Custom, Off-Road, and Snow. You can adjust the steering weight, but even in Sport mode, in my honest opinion, is still pretty light. We will spend most of our time in the Comfort drive mode, but we probably will dabble with Sport a little bit, and to do that, that means we should get back to the drive, so let's do that. And if you'd like to learn more detail about the exterior and interior of this car, I did do a separate video. I'll have a link to it in the description, and it should pop up right in the corner here. All right, now let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. Where does 269 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque come from? Well, as I said at the top, it is a turbocharged 2-liter engine, an inline 4-cylinder, and it has a name. It's called Evo 4. And while it is the only engine offered now, for this update, it got a nice boost in horsepower and torque. Horsepower went up by 34 compared to the 2023 model, and torque went up by 15 pound-feet. The pre-updated Atlas Cross Sport did offer a 3.6-liter VR6 option, and with that, you got 276 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque. and you got that from a naturally aspirated engine. So this turbocharged 2-liter effectively matches the old VR6 for horsepower and actually beats it when it comes to torque, but the feel of the old VR6, to me at least, was still better. The power buildup was just a little bit smoother, more linear, and it delivered what I thought was a better and cleaner sound as well. But I mentioned more torque. Not only do you get more torque, but you get it at lower RPM. Volkswagen says peak torque starts at 1600 RPM and holds through 4500 RPM. Pretty darn impressive, and quite low in the engine rev range, so a lot of usable torque there. This latest turbocharged 2-liter now uses 350 bar fuel injectors. That's more than 5,000 psi of pressure. And Volkswagen claims to have reduced internal friction in the engine as well to help free up the power a little bit and the efficiency. It is actually still a cast iron block for the Turbo 2, but I found this ironic. Volkswagen claims to now use aluminum screws to hold the engine together and help reduce weight. Also, the Evo 4's exhaust header is built into the cylinder head. All Atlas Cross Sports do continue to use an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it works fine. And as I already mentioned, front-wheel drive is offered on the lower trims, but SEL and higher is all-wheel drive. Except, it's kind of not. The way 4Motion works, every Atlas Cross Sport is effectively a front-wheel drive car unless traction is needed in the rear axle, and then a clutch pack and a center differential will start feeding power to the rear axle. Volkswagen claims that it can do this before the front wheels start spinning and that it can be completely engaged in fractions of a second. I don't know how many fractions of a second, but I'll guess we're talking between 250 and 500 milliseconds, quarter to half a second. And when it's fully engaged, you do get up to 50% of the torque to the rear axle. And generally speaking, it's a perfectly reasonable powertrain. When I floor it in comfort drive mode, it gives me a pretty darn quick kickdown and a good punch. I get good pull here. This is not wanting for power. Even though this is a pretty darn big crossover SUV, you can get moving. The transmission does a good job to downshift quickly, and there's enough power to keep you happy. Now, if I change it to the sport driving mode, the transmission automatically goes to its sport shifting mode, and everything, the center console touchscreen and the dash, goes red. And then, if I floor it again, the kickdown's about the same, the pull is about the same, but the engine noise is actually a little bit different. Volkswagen was pretty aggressive when it came to give a different engine character sound from the active sound control. The speakers are doing this to make it sound different in sport mode. So again, sport mode, floor the accelerator, totally different behavior to that, different character to the sound. All right. Back to comfort mode, floor it again. Yeah. I think comfort driving mode sounds a little bit more natural, if I'm honest. And if you want, you can have the transmission in the sport shifting mode even when you're in the comfort drive mode, and the response is actually pretty decent. So everything is telling me to keep the engine in the comfort mode even if you want other things in the sport mode. Sum it all up, the engine isn't exciting, but it totally gets the job done, and it does it reasonably well. And who knows, maybe you like that sportier sound. Regardless of what engine mode you're in, you are gonna have to occasionally stop for gas. And in the updated Atlas Cross Sport, you will get 19 miles to the gallon in the city, 26 miles to the gallon on the highway, 22 combined. Pretty decent considering the size of this thing. The lower trimmed with front wheel drive Atlases do a tiny touch better. I will go ahead and put those numbers on the screen just so you can see those. It's not a big difference. That goes back to what I was talking about, how 4Motion behaves like a front wheel drive SUV unless it has to be all wheel drive. It's just a little bit of a weight penalty as much as anything. Fuel economy will definitely drop if you want to tow something, but Volkswagen says you can tow up to 5,000 pounds in the Atlas Cross Sport, which frankly is higher than I thought it would be. A couple of caveats to that number. First, Volkswagen stipulates that it has to be properly equipped. For example, an SE Atlas Cross Sport can only tow 2,000 pounds, and There's no towing specification at all if the trailer does not have trailer brakes. So that is something to bear in mind. This can do it, but those caveats make me a little bit cautious about it. While towing may be important to some and fuel economy, affects everybody, neither of those is nearly as much fun as accelerating. Of course, I had to test it. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test in this updated Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport. I do have it in the sport driving mode, which means I also do have the transmission in the sport shifting mode. So let's see how it goes. All right, coming to a complete stop. No need for brake torque. Hit the gas. Okay. A little bit of a soft launch, but if you brake torque, it gives you a delay first. But then the shifts are quick, and yeah, this is solid acceleration right here. Yeah, that's really not bad. So it's a little bit of a soft launch. You don't get lurched back in the seat. You don't feel any initial pull, but then once you get moving, you accelerate just fine, and the shifts are quick. This 2-liter turbocharged engine's proving more than adequate for the job, and yeah, perfectly reasonable acceleration. Not groundbreaking, but totally competent. Let's talk chassis. And this really gets at the heart of what I was talking about this Atlas Cross Sport not having the same driving feel as Volkswagens traditionally did. Certainly not the GTI. Now, let me stipulate right off the bat, I wasn't expecting GTI driving feel, but I was expecting it, hoping, I should say, that it still felt like it was part of that family. And this just doesn't feel that way. A lot of the core stats are pretty decent. For an SUV, you only get 6.3 inches of ground clearance, which is pretty darn low these days, but maybe adds to it being a little bit lower to the ground, a little bit lower center of gravity, a little bit better road feel. Also, we do have a 4-wheel independent suspension, struts up front, multi-link in the back. That's not bad either. But the steering, first of all, the weighting of it is pretty light. I would like more resistance because that helps me be a little bit more precise with my hands and feel like I can control the car and place the car exactly where I want it. And that's true in comfort or even sport driving modes. Furthermore, I did get a chance to drive through a couple corners a little bit quickly, and body control isn't great. There's a lot of lean. It's competent through the corners, completely competent, completely safe, but it's not engaging and it's not enjoyable. And that makes it kind of feel not a Volkswagen, at least to me traditionally. But let's talk about happier things. The ride. The ride is very good. This is very comfortable. And the fact that I said that just kind of shows you where Volkswagen was steering this Atlas Cross Sport when it came to the market it was going for. The seats provide good support and lots of comfort. I have plenty of room in here. It's nice and wide, so I have plenty of width for shoulders and hips and all that. And the suspension tuning means that it goes over bumps and heaves of the road without any trouble at all. And that's true on roads like this and on the interstate. I did test it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick stint on the interstate. See how the updated Cross Sport feels on the road, play with this new technology. We do, of course, have lots of driving aids, and we also have something specifically Volkswagen calls Travel Assist, and we'll have that turned on. Otherwise, it is just the adaptive cruise control, but we're gonna go full Travel Assist, see what that's like. Okay, cruise control is set. We have it set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic. At that speed, the turbo 4-cylinder engine is humming along at a pretty low RPM, but right now I have the travel screen up, so let me change that view. Shows right around 2,000 RPM, 2,100 RPM. So considering everything, 8-speed transmission, 4-cylinder engine, that's pretty good. But I'm going to put it back to the assistant screen because Volkswagen gave the Cross Sport the full 3-lane assistance screen, so you have a lot you can look at. As you can see, we get a full 3 lanes of traffic. We're in the center. We're always in the center, but we're also actually in the center lane. And you can see that it'll show traffic on either side, as well as distance in front. It also has lane centering, so it will keep you in the center of the lane, even if you're going around a curve. And my hands were not on the wheel when we went around that curve. And yeah, it's a nice, elaborate system to give you a really good sense of what the Volkswagen CrossSport can see. Generally speaking, the lane centering does work well, keeps you center in the lane nicely. It's not as good as Toyota/Lexus lane tracing assist. I feel that one keeps you a bit more centered, more consistently, but this is constantly making the corrections and keeps you pretty darn close. And fundamentally, we have good road noise isolation, good cabin isolation, so wind noise is kept to a minimum. You can hear some buffeting around this body. It's a pretty wide thing, so it's got a pretty big frontal area, but none of it's super intrusive or loud whistles or anything like that. It's all pretty subtle. And road noise is kept pretty quiet as well. So yeah, there's a lot of comforts in this car that I really like. And also, you've got lots of USB ports, lots of tech, lots of gadgets, and a lot of comfort in here. Don't forget about the heated and ventilated seats, and for the driver, the heated steering wheel as well. Decent fuel economy to boot. So yeah, this is a perfectly reasonable road trip car, especially if it's you and 3 other adults. It's a great road trip car. So, what do I think of this updated Volkswagen Atlas CrossSport? This is a great SUV. It's a great SUV in a lot of ways. You saw how easily it swallowed my bike. You saw how much space and comfort I had in the second row. Even details like how the seat bottoms articulate with the seat backs in the second row to keep them comfortable even in the more upright position. There were heated seats back there too. There was plenty of space, but there were also cup holders and USB ports and all that kind of stuff. Sunshades, all of it. Up here, no different. Lots of standard features, lots of space, lots of comfort, a lot of easy to use tech, which I enjoyed. So from a consumer point of view, this has a lot of strengths. And this is not a bad time to say it looks cool too. But for the enthusiasts that want that old school pure Volkswagen feel, the Atlas CrossSport really didn't follow suit. It's just not quite there. Folks that want to carry you and 3 of your adult friends around, this is a great choice. Enthusiasts, stick with the GTI. I'm Ryman Warner. Thank you very much for watching. And if you like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Doing so helps me out a lot, and I'd really appreciate it. Also, I do a lot of reviews like this. Also, detailed walkarounds, news, tech reports, and all kinds of things. So if you have any interest in keeping up with the auto industry, please subscribe to my channel. That also helps me out a lot, and I'd also really appreciate that. And if you are an enthusiast that needs an SUV but still wants some driving feel, I don't know for sure yet, but I have pretty high hopes for the brand new Mazda CX-70. This is a 2025 model year 2-row SUV that looks awfully similar to the CX-90, and I was lucky enough to be able to take a close look at that a little while ago, and I have linked to that in the description, and hopefully it'll also pop up right here. I don't know for sure, but I am cautiously optimistic that it will drive a lot like the Mazda CX-90, and that drove really, really well. I did get to review that. I do have a link to that one in the description as well, and hopefully that one now pops up here. Or maybe you're interested in something entirely different. Well, like I said, I have reviewed a lot of stuff by now. Something will pop up next to me. Hopefully that's something you're interested in. And if you do end up watching it, I definitely hope you like it. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you very much for checking out Views on Vehicles.